Hi there all, Matthew here, picking and piping. Doing a video today, doing something a little different. I'm actually in the house because it's chilly out, so I'm not smoking a pipe, but it's St. Patrick's Day. So I thought I'd do some Irish whiskey tasting. But because I'm in the house, you're gonna see kids running around, you're gonna hear lots of noises, and that's just the nature of the circus that is my house. That's my son Christian there. He's very loud at times. He is moderately autistic, so he's unpredictable and fun. But he's a sweetheart. So anyway, again, this is St. Patrick's Day, so I got a couple small bottles of some cheap Irish whiskey to sample, because that's one type of whiskey I haven't delved into too much. I've had a little bit, but not a lot. Personally, I've tried a lot of bourbons and a few other American whiskeys, as well as a couple scotches, not many, but a couple. And now I want to try do some tastings on some Irish whiskeys. I have had Jameson. I've had a few varieties of Jameson before. And so I'll talk about Jameson a little bit with the three I'm showing you today, but we're going to be trying some Tullamore Dew, Bushmills, and some Paddy's, which is very, very inexpensive. So, I mean, these are the only ones my liquor store had little bottles of. I also would have liked to try, what's the other one? Like Powers, I've heard is a good one. I have had Redbreast, which was good. Redbreast 12 is quite tasty, and Green Spot I've tried, which is very atypical Irish whiskey, if you ask me. It tastes like green apples, and it's good. It's got coconut flavor too, though, which kind of is a turnoff for me, but it is a good whiskey. It's just not the norm you would think of for Irish whiskey. So let's get started. I'm going to start from, I guess, what you consider cheapest. I'm going to start with the Paddy's. So I have had, as I've said, I've had Jameson, and I'm just pouring in like a little bit to have a few tastes of it. I've had Jameson before, and Jameson, just the standard regular Jameson, is very bright. It's very much of a typical Irish whiskey, what you think of it. It's got a flavor of shortbread cookie. It's bright and crisp, but it's very one-dimensional. Yeah, her food's done. It's one-dimensional. It's not a very complex. Not that it's not flavorful, but it's not very complex. It's very one-dimensional. So, comparing it to, say, a bourbon or a lot of American whiskeys I've had, or even some Canadian whiskeys, much more run-of-the-mill is not the right word, but it's not nearly as deep in flavors as some of the other whiskeys I've had. Getting a lot of ethanol flavor there. A little, yeah, a lot of ethanol. It's not like a very strong, it's stronger. It's got a bit of a burn compared to, say, when I've had Jameson. I'm trying to make out some of the other flavors to it though too. This is a blend of grain, malt, and pot stills. So there's a couple different types of Irish whiskeys. You've got pot stills, you've got single malt, and I forget the other, blended probably. There's like 3 different kinds. So I'm not an expert. Don't quote me on that. But I know there are some different. This one's made in Cork, Ireland. So I'm gonna not have this video go on forever. So what I'm gonna do is pause it, and then I will come back with my finishing thoughts, and then we'll try the next one. So this video doesn't end up being forever in a day. Oh, and by the way, I did get that new tripod I've been talking about, and it came with a clicker. So now I'm just as fancy as some of the other folks out there that have clickers. Let's try it. Okay, so to finish off the patties, which is 40% alcohol, I think Jameson is 40% as well, and that's actually a little lower proof than most of the bourbons and stuff that I drink normally are probably 45 or sometimes even higher than that. But the ethanol was a lot on it. Not as one-dimensional, I would say, as Jameson, but not as crisp either. This has aged at least 3 years, and it tastes pretty young. It doesn't taste very refined and edge. Like there's definitely some rough edges to it. It's a cheap whiskey, so but it's not bad. I wouldn't say that at all. Probably a little bit more complex than Jameson was, but doesn't mean it was better. I think I would definitely prefer Jameson over it. So next we're doing some Bushmills. Bushmills is also 40%. I think all three of these are 40%. So Bushmills is a blended whiskey. I don't know much about it. Just says that it's the original Irish whiskey 1608, but that doesn't mean, I don't know. I don't know much about specifically the history of it or anything like that. I haven't learned too much about Irish whiskeys. I did visit the Jameson distillery when I was in Dublin years ago, but that was a long time ago, and I took the tour and learned a lot about it at that point, but I don't remember much from that because it was a long time ago. So let's try Bushmills. On the nose, you get a little apple. It's pretty crisp. That's definitely more of a whiskey flavor to it than the patties. Almost, if I didn't know better, almost like there's some peat flavoring in this, like it was a scotch. Reminds me a little bit of Johnny Walker Black, but it's not heavy peaty, but it probably doesn't have peat at all. So, it's good though. Trying to see what else. I'm not a very refined drinker, so getting the flavors out profiles is a little bit challenging for me. I've gotten better with it, trying a bunch of bourbons, but again, these are new to me. I wonder what the age is on these. This tastes a little older, more mature, definitely than the patties did. I would say that this probably has been aged longer, maybe 7-8 years. That's my guess. And I forget, most Irish whiskeys are, like I said before, blended, pot stilled, or single malt, and they're typically blended and aged in a bourbon barrel or combination of bourbon barrels and sherry barrels, or oak barrels or something like that. Look it up if you need to, but usually they're aged in those kind of barrels. So it gives them some flavoring, for that. But again, keep in mind, these are, sorry, looking at a text on my phone. These are all cheap Irish whiskeys. Like, these aren't the high-end stuff at all. These are the cheap, like Bushmills has higher level bourbons. Patties might. I know Tullamore Dew certainly has. This is, like, Tullamore Dew that we're going to try next is, I want to say this is maybe 8 year. I forget how many years blended it is or aged, but like they have some that are specifically like 8-year or 13-year or just like what is it? Redbreast and Powers, they all, even some Jameson have higher level, like higher, better versions of the Jameson. I really want to try the Jameson Black Barrel, I think it is. I've heard really good things about it. And I do recommend, I haven't talked about it much, but I don't remember the profile, but so far I think my favorite Irish whiskey has been Redbreast 12, and they have a 15 and like a 20-year or something like that, but Redbreast is really good. So back to the Bushmills. Very standard whiskey, but smooth enough, good drinking. It's much more complex than I would say even Jameson or Paddy's. It's not as bright as Jameson. It's crisp, but it's got deeper flavors. So depending on what you're in the mood for, this would be more of a, I think, more of a sipping whiskey. Jameson's a good one too. It definitely doesn't give you a lot of a burn to it or a lot of complexity, but it's also good for mixing. And it's also good for if you want to drink something that's not going to burn or be too hard on the palate. Jameson's really good for that. So, okay, I'm going to finish it up in a few minutes. We'll give it some time, and then I'll come back and we'll try the next one. So finishing off the little taste I did of Bushmills, on the end, I got a little bit of more of a traditional Irish whiskey taste that I've had before. More, I don't know if you know shortbread, but it just is just all-around standard whiskey. More flavorful than Paddy's was. Definitely not as harsh. A little stronger, even though the proof is the same. I guess I'd compare it to like a cheaper bourbon or cheaper American whiskey that's decent, but not like really low end. Like I can't stand Jack Daniels, but I'm okay with Jim Beam, or Knob Creek is even a better one. And there's some other good ones that are under the more budget friendly end. And I would say this would fall into that type of category of Irish whiskeys. I think I would put, if you had to ask me, I think I would put Jameson ahead though of these two, just a little bit, just because it's very different though. Jameson's very crisp and bright, and much more of a, just to me, a more Irish whiskey tasting Irish whiskey, like it just more standard Irish whiskey. So, okay, last but not least in this tasting test is Tullamore Dew, which has the coolest name of all of these. Although Paddy's is a cool name, but Tullamore Dew just sounds like an Irish whiskey. Excuse me, I forgot to rinse out my cup. Hold on. Okay, sorry about that. So, Tullamore Dew, a little water there. Put some in. I want to say I tried this once before, but I don't remember it. Bottle does not say anything about how much it's aged. It does say it's triple distilled though, which most Irish whiskeys are triple distilled. Okay, so the nose. That's more of a regular Irish whiskey nose for me. What's up? I'm doing a video.
Oh.
Tasting some Irish whiskey.
Oh yeah, because it's St. Patrick's Day.
Exactly. So.
How is it?
Some of them are good. We've got, this again is Tullamore Dew. definitely flavorful. There's not a lot of nose to it, but I get a soft scent of the shortbread cookie, but I don't get a lot of nose on that one. I think Bushmills had the strongest nose. Bushmills had a stronger burn too. This one's smoother. I would gather that this has got some more age on it than the patties. Maybe as much as the Bushmills, maybe more, but it doesn't say on here. I'll have to look it up. They have a website. I'm curious to know how much aging and if it's aged in a specific kind of barrels. Because there's definitely you can look at the color on it. There's some viscosity to it, but there's some darkness to the color, much more so than Bushmills. Bushmills is much lighter. I wonder what kind of barrels they had this in. It's clearly giving it some flavor because it's a rich flavor. It's a deeper flavor, but yet it's still, I would say, much smoother than Bushmills. Yeah, definitely. This has been my favorite of the three I've tried, and I'd probably put this over Jameson too. I think over Jameson because it's much less one-dimensional, much more flavorful, not so crisp and bright, deeper, but it's still a good sipping whiskey. I could see you mixing with this, but this is still a good one. You could just drink neat or on the rocks and just enjoy. This is still a relatively budget-friendly Irish whiskey. This is one of the cheaper ones out there, so I don't imagine this would, I don't know what the price is for like a regular size bottle. I think it was $4.99 for this, $3.99, but $3 or $4.99. It is also, it's also 40% alcohol, but it tastes actually a higher proof than that, just because there's more. It's got a deeper flavor to it. So let me enjoy it a little bit more. I'll come back with my final thoughts. Okay, so I did a little research while I was sipping on some more Tullamore Dew on the actual whiskey. Looked at their website, and this one is blended, or it is a blended whiskey, but it's aged in at least 3 years. But it definitely tastes more than that. I would say it's like to me it tastes like a 7 or 8 year old whiskey, but I'm sure it's not. But ex-bourbon barrels and sherry something. It wasn't like sherry barrels, it was sherry something, but ex-bourbon barrels. But for me, this provides the most complexity and the most flavor while being still pretty smooth. So I would highly recommend this one, even over Jameson. And I would say this actually would be really good neat. I would want to try it maybe with some ice too, but neat, it's good. And then I think it would be great in a cocktail. I have to look to see what the price is on a regular bottle versus, say, a regular bottle of Jameson, but it would probably be really good in a whiskey sour, or I like a 7 and 7, which is basically like 7-Up or a lemon lime drink, or ginger ale and a whiskey. So any of those combined are just makes a good cocktail. Getting a little vanilla the more I sip it. It's got some fruit notes to some fruit in the nose. I don't really pick that up as much when I'm sipping it, but I get some vanilla. Trying to pick out whatever, but I think I'm a little bit. I'll have to try the rest of this bottle sometime with just by itself when I haven't had the other whiskeys beforehand, because that certainly is going to affect my palate, and so I'll probably get a clearer picture when I just drink it by itself. But this is definitely my favorite of the three. And the four, if you consider the Jameson I've had before. I wish I remembered the Redbreast 12 I had. That was my favorite before, and it probably still is. It's probably a better, I mean, it's a higher end. It's, I would say, more of a middle of the road Irish whiskey. But it's not really a high end whiskey. But it might be better than this basic Tullamore Dew. But of the basic ones, Tullamore Dew takes my prize. I was comparing it a little while ago. I was thinking about it. I would almost say that this would be like if I said the Bushmills was kind of like a I know I used Knob Creek example. I don't think that's necessarily fair, but Jim Beam. This would definitely be more of like a Knob Creek / Four Roses for me. Basic, budget, but also really tasty and very just good to sip and enjoy. And smooth. It really is smooth. And surprisingly for 40%, it's got a flavor of a 45% at least, but without the burn. So I mean, it's got the 40% bite to it, but it's got a higher flavor to it. So I like that. I'll have to definitely try some more of the Tullamore Dew. They have an 8-year, I think, a 12-year. They've got like one that's like a special cask, a cask strength. So they have a few higher priced versions of them that I might try at some point. But this is pretty good. And let me know what you've tried as far as Irish whiskeys go, what you've tried and enjoyed, or what you do or don't like about them. For me, I mean, I've tried a few. I've tried enough to know that I like Irish whiskey more than I do Scotch. Some regular unpeated Scotches are good, but the peated ones just, for me, I'm not a fan of the peat flavor to it. Like the one I remember is Johnny Walker Black Label, which has got a really good flavor to it until you get the peatiness to it, and it hits you, and I just don't like the peatiness to it. But anyway, this video's gone long enough. I'm kind of rambling, but I'm enjoying my Irish whiskey. As we speak, I'm cooking up some shepherd's pie, and I'm gonna have a Irish stout with dinner. Enjoying this St. Patrick's Day. So I wish all of you a happy St. Patrick's Day. I hope your weekend's been good. You've been good all around lately, staying safe, healthy. God bless. Slanja. Hi. Say hi, Christian. Christian, say hi.
Hi.
Hi. Good job, buddy. Take care, and I'll see you again soon.